Nowadays, a lot of crazy things happen on TV. While most of these are pre-recorded programs, it's really when unexpected events are captured live that television is at its finest. Disasters can unfold right before your eyes, usually before broadcasters have time to intervene. Some truly horrific events have taken place in front of unsuspecting viewers, and while there's many controversial incidents I can't mention, I did manage to find some pretty amazing stuff. Let's take a look at some of the craziest TV events that nobody expected. Amazing. Number 10. JetBlue Emergency Landing. Back in 2005, a nail-biting and potentially disastrous plane landing was captured by live news. The now infamous JetBlue Flight 292 needed to make an emergency landing at LAX, but it wasn't going to be easy. The plane's nose gear had jammed unexpectedly before landing, meaning that the front wheel was stuck at a twisted 90-degree angle to its normal direction. Pilots were forced to make a landing on LAX's 12,000-foot-long runway. There were 140 passengers aboard the flight and 6 crew. Emergency services were on standby as no one knew quite what was going to happen. At first, things looked like they were going to go smoothly, but just watch what happens as the drama unfolds. Just imagine what they were thinking as the front wheel burst into flames and screeched across the runway. According to reports from inside the plane, the atmosphere was very tense, which is probably the understatement of the century. However, some passengers took comfort in watching coverage of the landing on JetBlue's in-flight TV system. One of the passengers on board was actress Taryn Manning, now from Orange is the New Black, who had just that year landed a breakthrough role in the movie Hustle and Flow. As for what caused the nose gear to lock, that's been put down to seals getting worn out, combined with technical issues in the brake steering control unit computer, or BSCU. Is that just burning rubber, or do I smell a lawsuit? Thankfully, no one was hurt during this incident. Number 9. Virulent Alien Message. A local broadcast on British TV in the late 1970s became a conduit for mysterious alien forces. That or some vintage tech nerds were playing a very weird joke. Either way, the virulent incident is really one for the record books. It all began innocently enough. The presenter of Southern Television's evening news, Andrew Gardner, was talking about current events on Saturday evening, when all of a sudden this started happening.
Negotiations being arrested. In Australia, Mr. Kerry Packer's cricketers are still clinging to yesterday's High Court decision, which lifted the ban on them playing in Test matches.
This is the voice of Allah, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
Virulent's message, which ran for approximately 6 minutes, was deadly serious. The representative from the Ashtar Galactic Command wanted to warn humanity about its reliance on violence and money. His speech mentions the new world of Aquarius, which sounds like a pretty hippie-inspired message for an intelligent alien lifeform. The incident is believed to be a sophisticated prank, since interrupting a TV signal required serious technical ability back then. It wasn't quite as effective as the mass hysteria induced by the infamous War of the Worlds radio broadcast, but Virulent still made a big splash with conspiracy theorists. The mystery was never solved, as the people behind it were never caught, and no one ever admitted to the prank. Number 8. Shark Attack. A gorgeous location like Jeffreys Bay in South Africa seems like the perfect place to hold a major surf competition. In 2015, the World Surfing League's J-Bay Open was in full swing. Board riding champion Mick Fanning from Australia was gearing up to win the final, but an unexpected guest had other ideas. Their closer than close encounter was captured live, and it's terrifying to watch. Sheer brute force and courage was all that stood between Fanning and the hungry shark. He only managed to escape by punching the shark in the back. No one knows what species it was, but it's reckoned the shark in question was a great white. Whatever it was, it nearly ended Fanning's dream of victory, not to mention his life. The area is known for its high concentration of sharks, so maybe it isn't so gorgeous after all. Amazingly, this terrifying experience didn't stop Fanning from surfing. He kept on competing and only retired from the waves in 2018. Number 7. Challenger and Columbia disasters. The Challenger space shuttle disaster in 1986 was NASA's darkest hour. It was filmed by TV crews who also caught the reactions of the disbelieving crowd gathered at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Everything seemed normal until just over a minute into the launch. It took only 73 seconds before the catastrophe struck.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
The Challenger shuttle was engulfed in a fireball caused by the collapse of a fuel tank. What's surreal about the footage is how Mission Control were required to keep talking in a matter-of-fact way as the weight of the tragedy became clear.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
Less than 20 years later, a similar incident happened over North Texas. The Columbia shuttle was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere when it was obvious something had gone seriously wrong. TV news was there to report on the disaster.
Here you'll see multiple contrails, multiple vapor trails coming in, which is not normal.
The greater fear on this particular landing was a terrorist attack.
The trouble started when the crew originally went into space. A piece of foam had come loose and damaged the shuttle's left wing. When they tried to return, the wing couldn't handle the pressure, and the rest doesn't need to be explained. Both of the Challenger and Columbia crews are remembered with sadness and with pride. Number 6. Balloon Boy Hoax. A 6-year-old boy from Colorado named Falcon Heaney was national news in 2009 for a very unexpected reason. At first, this silver object hurtling through the air was thought to be a UFO. However, things took a more earthbound turn when the object was revealed as a helium balloon. But this was no ordinary balloon. It was approximately 20 feet wide and 5 feet high, and big enough to fit a child inside. According to the Heaney family, their son Falcon had managed to climb into the balloon and was now on a collision course with Denver International Airport. The balloon boy supposedly took off from the family's backyard, where the fame-obsessed father Richard had been working on it as an invention. The appropriately named Falcon had apparently traveled 60 miles and reached a height of 7,000 feet before the balloon deflated and came down. The authorities rushed to his rescue, only to find that the balloon was empty. The boy was eventually found in an attic space at the Heaney's home. Apparently, his parents had been unable to find him that day, but later, in a follow-up interview, the all-too-honest Falcon clearly says,
"You guys said that we did this for the show."
Proof it was all a proposed reality show about their family. Falcon's parents previously appeared on Wife Swap and allegedly had a taste for self-publicity. What goes up must come down, and Falcon's father was hit with 90 days in jail and 100 hours of community service. Number 5. Armed robbery at a poker tournament. Now I know poker is a high-stakes game, but this is one gamble I wouldn't take. 4 men entered the European poker tournament that was being hosted at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Berlin, but they didn't have chips on their mind. They were heavily armed and dangerous, wielding pistols and a machete that were used to frighten players and staff. Attempts to stop their plan failed, and they made off with the cash jackpot, which was over 242,000 euros, or $271,000. As you can see, they weren't really prepared to be caught live on TV. One of the security guards managed to restrain one of the robbers, but had to let him go when one of the other criminals attacked him with a machete. The robbers were all young men between the ages of 19 and 20. The person who allegedly set up the robbery was arrested 2 weeks later. 3 other men were soon apprehended, one of them at Berlin's Tegel airport. The gang were put on trial where they quickly confessed to the raid. Even though the plan itself was sloppy in its execution, at least 4,000 euros of their ill-gotten gains are reportedly still to be found. Number 4. Hulk Hogan chokes out host. You might recognize actor Richard Belzer from his role on Homicide and Law & Order. What you probably don't know is he used to be a talk show host. On The Richard Belzer Show in 1984, Belzer found himself caught in a headlock administered by wrestler Hulk Hogan and encouraged by A-Team star Mr. T.
Just tell me, brother, when you want him to quit squealing, okay?
All right.
It's called a front chin lock. How about it, T?
Keep him like that for a little while. Because he's all right. He's just sleeping. He's sleeping. Really, I was a sleeper hole. He'll be all right.
Despite what Mr. T says, Belzer certainly doesn't look alright. Belzer later explained that he was in shock and had literally blacked out in the hold, even though he manages to maintain his role as presenter.
Nah, that was a serious move. A lot of people.
See, it works. All right, brother.
And now, we'll be right back after this word from you-know-who. We'll be right back.
It turned out that Belzer required stitches in the back of his head because he'd landed so hard. Normally, I maintain that wrestling is fake, but in this case, that fall speaks for itself. Number 3. Newsroom Holdup. The classic 1975 movie Network showed us that crazy things can happen live in a newsroom, and it wasn't long before life began imitating art. In 1987, LA-based TV station KNBC was infiltrated by a lone gunman who approached presenter David Horowitz.
Because, you know, one of the nicest things about shopping by mail order... Pardon me? What is this? Let me see what it says. All right. All right, well, let me read this. Folks, we have someone on the set who's standing here and would like me to read this copy which was just handed to me. You want to tell me your name or not? What is it? And Gary, where are you from?
The gunman, Gary Stolman, had managed to get past security because he was the son of a former employee. After claiming he wanted to watch the filming, Stolman ended up on air. Horowitz kept calm throughout, as he was made to read out a 7-minute-long statement which contained so-called top-secret info. According to Stolman, aliens had invaded Earth and were working with the CIA to replace people with clones.
David, very cool there. At that point, news producer Nancy Valenta ordered us off the air, but we all pretended that we were still broadcasting for the entire rambling, incoherent statement, and this is how it ended. Off the air, viewers did not see this.
Involved. There is no way I can harm anyone with this empty BB gun.
Stolman's weapon eventually turned out to be a harmless toy, but he still made headlines with this weird and unexpected studio invasion. Talk about breaking the news. Number 2. KILLDOZER, BULLDOZER, RAMPAGE. Seems like Colorado is just one of those places where unexpected and crazy things happen. When giant UFO-style balloons aren't flying across the sky, armored bulldozers are rampaging through the streets. Check out this outrageous live TV footage from 2004. This is the KILLDOZER. When it was built by disgruntled welder Marvin Heemeyer in a metal shop behind his house, the town of Granby really didn't know what was coming for them. The bulldozer was reinforced with steel and concrete and had high-caliber rifles mounted on the inside. Heemeyer used video monitors to navigate, so there was no weak point for police officers to exploit and penetrate the vehicle's armor. All this was because of a beef Heemeyer had with local authorities. Heemeyer ran a muffler repair business and had gotten into arguments over their zoning rules and code violations. He reacted as any normal human being would, by armor plating his 53-ton bulldozer and taking out his frustrations on the town. Eventually, the KILLDOZER's engine stopped after authorities trapped it down an alley. Heemeyer managed to destroy 13 buildings before the rampage came to a tragic end. Rather than face justice, Heemeyer opted for death by self-inflicted gunshot wound. It doesn't get much crazier than this. Number 1. Japanese Tsunami. On the 11th of March 2011, a devastating tsunami hit the northeast coast of Tohoku in Japan. Some of the waves reached heights of 128 feet tall and traveled inland as far as 6 miles. Footage from the air showed the disaster unfold in alarming detail. There was nothing local people could do but watch in horror as the titanic waves rolled in. This event was not entirely unexpected, as the Japanese were aware that the tsunami was coming, but an earthquake of that magnitude was definitely not expected. Even though Japan are a world leader in disaster preparedness, the earthquake and tsunami caused overwhelming damage. The earthquake struck to the northeast of Japan's Honshu Island and measured a staggering 9.0 in magnitude, the 5th largest earthquake recorded since 1900. 470,000 people were displaced by the massive wave, and an estimated 20,000 people were killed. Those figures make these next images especially tough to watch. As awful as this footage is, something positive did come out of the coverage, despite the death and destruction. Tsunami scientists have been able to use the footage to study the behavior of tsunamis and how they propagate across land. Research had previously been conducted on tsunami paths out in the ocean, but little was known about what happens once they reach the shore. This means that next time a major tsunami happens, authorities will be better able to predict the outcome. And hopefully this will save lives in the future. Much of Japan has successfully recovered from this disaster, though the effects of the resulting nuclear meltdown are still far-reaching. Were you watching any of these events live when they happened? Do you know of any unexpected events captured live that I've missed out? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.